So, hello everybody. I'm going to make a short introduction. Now, my name is René Ebert. I'm the managing director of SIBB. And to be honest, we are using this SIBB image video around about 120 seconds, 2 minutes, always at the beginning. It's just webinars because it's exactly the amount of time when all the attendees jump in. And now we have more than 20 people in. And we know we have today an international audience, which is great. And sorry that we used the German version of the video because we are currently working a little bit on the English version. So the attendees who are not familiar with German language, they couldn't read anything which was written, but that's why I'm here and telling you a little bit about our association, SIBB, who we are, because we see we have people in the session today which might be not familiar with our association, especially when they come from abroad. We are the ICT and Digital Business Association of the capital of Germany, of Berlin, and also the federal state of Brandenburg around Berlin. And we have nearly 300 companies in the association, some the big shots like Microsoft, SAP with their subsidiaries here in Berlin, but we are mainly an association for the small and medium business-sized companies, hundreds of that in the association, and during the last years also coming more and more startups in our association. And what we are doing is actually we're offering a lot of services for our community here in Berlin. And one of the services, one of the biggest efforts we are doing is helping our companies to get contact with also companies from abroad, from the United States. And we are working with some of the Eastern European countries as well. And that's also the reason why we have today organizations from Romania included and also experts from Ukraine. I don't want to highlight the main topic of this session today because this is the part of my colleague Vladislav, who's going to be the moderator today. But you see, this is a typical outcome that we are working with other organizations together in other countries. And this is something that is very well, that the companies want, and which, by the way, makes our team brings our team a lot of fun as well. We have 13, 14 employees in the team. We have 2 offices in Berlin, 1 in Brandenburg. But, you know, like it is, I think it's in your companies the same. The office doesn't count anymore so much because we are all working some days from the home office as well. Last words, what we are also offering is various R&D projects. We are just setting up a new R&D project, a so-called SIM network. This is a possibility in Germany where you get money from the Ministry of Economic Development. I'm just highlighting that because if you are a company active in the field of robotic or cobotic, you might write me or my colleague in the chat because it might be that you are interested in being a part of such a network. The network is not German centralized. It's a network where German companies can come in and also companies from Eastern European countries, for instance. And we are just, like I said already, setting that up. It's a so-called ERCT network, European Robot and Cobot Transition Network. And like I have mentioned already, it's all about getting funded money for doing R&D projects in the robotic and cobotic world. So that's enough from my side. Last sentence from my side. You might hear today some things because we have this special topic with, you know, disinformation and which country is doing a lot of disinformation. Unfortunately, nowadays, this is this big country in the east of Europe, and there are some experts now in our session today which are highlighting some real examples for disinformation. So please be aware that are examples. That is not the opinion from those experts, but just examples to highlight how weird those disinformation is, which comes from, you know, that big country which started the war now 1 year ago. So enough from my side. Handing over to Vladislav. Now it's your turn as a moderator. Thank you very much.
Dear audience, I'm delighted to have you all today. And as Mr. Ebert said, it's true. We are truly diverse international today. So I'm glad to greet you, everyone. And the first speaker will be Andriy Kusyy, and he's my country fellow mate. He's also from Ukraine, and he created tremendous startup. Now it's the founded company, and he was also prompted to leave his country and home because of the obvious reason, because of the war which Russia started against Ukraine. But he's going to show very practical examples, and he's going to address his expertise, and he's going to nail the topic combating modern ill-intended information campaigns with artificial intelligence. But before Andriy will start, I would like to say I would like to emphasize a few technical moments here. So dear audience, please turn off your mics. Dennis Dagger. Thank you, please. And yes, dear audience, I encourage you to post your questions in the chat. So we will have dialogue, during our webinar. And please remain until the end, so that you will move afterwards to breakout session rooms, where you'll be able to get to know each other, to get connected, to have a chat, and to network, because this is also what it's all about, not to receive information, but to get in contact with each other. So, Andriy, you're opening today's webinar. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Vlad. First of all, thanks for that very generous introduction. Can you confirm that you can hear and see me?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So, my name is Andriy. I'm one of co-founders of LetsData. First of all, LetsData is an AI solution that is anticipating communication risks, such as ill-intended information campaigns or disinformation, or opportunities in that space. And we're working there of distorted information. I'm Ukrainian, and for last many years, we had no lack of disinformation in our information space. So idea to build solutions that would help to fight it is not new, but the war accelerated it. At LetsData, our mission is to empower organizations to communicate proactively and guard, therefore, against those misinformation campaigns. And we are enabling them by using advanced analytics and artificial intelligence and trying to move communication from reactive to proactive. But that's lots of words, but we haven't touched on the problem itself. So usually, when it comes to disinformation, people are perceiving it as something that is impacting just the governments and the society. That's true. It's impacting the society. That's true. It's impacting the countries. It's targeted against the countries. But also, often, the disinformation is also targeting the companies. And in reality, if you look into the economic impact of disinformation and malinformation campaigns, it's estimated to be $78 billion per year, which is a huge amount. And the biggest chunk of that loss is from private companies. So 51% of the companies that suffered the communication crisis were not able to recover their share price a year after. So it's actually like if you're a telecommunication company and you are suffered the communication crisis caused by 5G conspiracy, which not even ever named you, even after a year, you are still recovering from that. And that's something that you could not see very easily. So why is that such a big problem? First of all, communication crises and malinformation campaigns nowadays are very fast. An average communication crisis is becoming viral in 6 hours. If it's a conspiracy that is targeted against you, or if it's a disinformation event that is targeting against you, on average, it will get cross-network. So it will leave one network and be in the news and be viral in 6 hours. While, for example, there is a statistic that an average organization, private one, or a company one, takes 21 hours to get the first response, which is super slow. 15 hours in between the crisis, in between the disinformation becoming viral, and your response exists only one truth, the disinformation one. So why is that happening? That delay is that because first, either there is a lack of solutions or skills. Some companies, especially in the public sector, are still relying on the manual tracking of the media, which is highly inefficient. Some others are using brand monitoring solutions, which allow you to know when your brand is mentioned. But misinformation campaigns and disinformation campaigns would rarely mention you directly. They would be targeting your industry, naming you indirectly. They are guarding against the lawsuits and so on. So that's a problem. You would not catch this. Another problem is that you could have a more of a complex solution, a super fancy dashboard, but then you need people to operate it. And 78% of the organizations in the public sector, 78% of the communication departments are understaffed in the developed countries. And therefore, there are just no people to monitor that. Another problem of modern disinformation campaigns is that they are very targeted and hyper-local. So usually, they would use all the algorithms that social media would provide them to target the message specifically. Here is, for the last year, we've been monitoring the media discourse around war in Ukraine in 40 countries. We analyzed over 20 million publications, and every week we would produce a report saying what was happening in the world, what was countries and in the countries saying about the war in Ukraine. And you can see here that here are key narratives that are pushed in each country against Ukraine and against the West. And you can see that they are different. I mean, the narratives are the same, but their proportion and how big they are in each country are different. For example, in Slovakia, which don't have that much refugees comparing to our neighbors, and which is feeling the impact of the sanctions the worst on their economy, the sanctions are the key topic. For example, in Poland, sanctions are not mentioned because Polish people know that sanctions work. On the other hand, there is a targeted messaging to say that there is a history issues and the Nazi issues comparing to relating to the Second World War. In Hungary, that would be hurting West more. So you can see that for each country, there is a specific targeting. And actually, if you even look below that, you could also see that there are different channels would be specialized in different levels of the targeting. And that we even target to the specific demographic group within a country. So the disinformation today is very targeted, unlike the communication that the public sector is doing, which are just in the void, which are general. Another problem with disinformation in the modern days is that it knows no boundaries. Here's an interesting example of the narrative of the fake spreading in targeting Ukraine. And in red here, you can see pro-Russian channels, communication channels, and then in more of a gray, you can see Russian ones. So it's funny that it's originated in a small, very tiny pro-Russian channel, but then the more engagement, the more views, the more comments you have, the more credibility that message would have. So then this message would travel to lots of big Russian channels, which would gain lots and lots of views. And then suddenly, from all of those channels, it would go again to a small Ukrainian channel, and then from that to other Ukrainian channels. And when you are looking at in that Ukrainian channels, you're like, wow, this is a very credible message. But in reality, you don't know the background that all of that was actually originated from abroad. And that's a problem that usually this information is not limited to a single network. It could start in Telegram, then move to the news, then move to Facebook, and it could start in Ukraine, then move to Russia to gain the momentum, and then move back to Ukraine with a stronger momentum, and then move to Poland. So it has no boundaries, And it's actually, each case is unique, but there are lots of different ways that could be used to gain more credibility for the disinformation. And that's actually one of the biggest problems, that it's first of all very targeted, and secondly, it's no geography limitations. So that's why we have a bit different approach. We have a very specific approach to how we deal with online information campaigns. We view them comprehensively. And when we say though, it means that we use advanced analytics to combine online media and social media. So on the online media, it's like digital news, and social media, it's Twitter, Telegram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, so that you could have a comprehensive picture, so that you could know that this message originated in Telegram, but then it traveled to YouTube, and then it gained momentum in YouTube and returned to the digital news. Without comprehensive view, you would never know that, and you would much harder to tackle that. But if you look into the news and digital news and social media, that's a huge amount of information, and you need some way to analyze it. That's why we used lots of artificial intelligence, which is quite simple at the moment, is like extracting people, organization, locations, understanding the sentiments towards specific topics, detecting toxic construct like special military operation in the text, understanding the dynamic and evolution of the topics, understanding the relations between journals. That's everything that from the articles you could extract with artificial intelligence. And then connecting that to the engagement, like how much views you have, you could also extract from that signal the toxicity score, how dangerous this article is. So if you have a neutral article which is gaining lots of momentum, that's not interesting. But you have a toxic article using lots of toxic words, mentioning lots of toxic people, gaining the momentum, that's very dangerous. And combining this toxicity with the engagement, you could use machine learning to predict the trend and say that something highly toxic is gonna spread viral, and you could send an alert. Our philosophy is that we are trying to warn you before that happens. So here you can see I was trying to simulate an example which is relevant to Berlin, is an energy crisis situation. Like not so long ago, it was a big issue was the potential energy shortages. So if you see the trend is growing around the energy disinformation by 78%, and you predict it to reach huge amounts, we send the alert. And then on the communication team, they actually should be ready to that alert, and they use our response coordination system to set up how they would respond. So this is energy related alert, that meaning that we have a message box for that, and that we notify this a certain Esther, Pavlovsky, or whoever first, and then they issue first messages to tackle that within 15 minutes. Then we notify the communication department, they issue second messages, then we contact our partners. So you could pre-plan how would you respond to that. So you are warned in advance, and you have a plan or some kind of a plan that is automatically executed, and people are notified how you should respond. And as soon as you start responding, we know your communication channels. So what we can do, we can actually take the message box that you are producing. And for example, here you have the energy crisis after the statement. This is a red, that's one that is gaining lots of conspiracies inside itself. But then, for example, your ones are green ones. Your message box was on subsidy schemes and no cutoffs. And then basically we are seeing how your communication campaign is doing against that one that is gaining the disinformation inside. And as soon as the communication crisis is over and you successfully went through it, what we will do, we'll just do a report. And for example, here is a report on Ukraine. At the end of the week, you will receive the report with the key insights, what was happening in the information space. Like who was writing, how different countries perceive that, if that's relevant, what were the key topics covered, how they distributed in the countries. So this is an example of the report we are doing for the stakeholders, more than 120 stakeholders involved in the media discourse monitoring around Ukraine. And that's the reports that we would send them weekly, and they could see which people are gaining attention in which countries. They could emphasize the messages for the specific countries. So basically what we are trying to do, we are trying to give them real-time feedback on the communication campaign and on the risks that they are facing. And with that, it's actually, they are no longer required to to communicate in the blind. So that's how we are trying to tackle this hyper-local and hyper-fast disinformation by using predictive power of artificial intelligence.
Thank you, dear Andriy. You highlighted and you dig deeply into very hot topic and in the step with the times, and especially in the light of the current things which are happening in our native country as well as in the world. So that's crucially important. What are you guys doing? Do we have some questions? Dear audience, yes, once again, I invite you to raise your questions because we have very interesting speakers today tackling very actual issue. So please write your questions in the chat so they can be read and answered by our dear speakers. Thank you, Andriy, once again. So second speaker, he's coming from the institution which is called Private Institute for the Development of the Public Digital Networks. And this institution, it's our honor that they are a member of our association. And they're going to show very important aspect why internet censorship is destructive for the development of the net, and how VPN generator projects ensures stability and resilience for access to information. I just want to say a few words. The founders of these institutions, they are native Russians. I know them personally. They are very good people, and they fled from the current Russia because the, so to say, ear got so tense, so they couldn't breathe in figurative sense. And they feel very increasingly sorry about what is happening currently in their country. And they have, this is more even mission for them to deliver through trustworthy information to the citizens of Russia, so they can distinguish the false information from the real one. And Mikhail Yakushev is going to show now in his presentations some of this, a couple of this, so to say, examples of this absurdity, which sometimes media are trying to push to us, trying to sell to us, to the people. But I would like to repeat once again, as Mr. Ebert already did, these are not statements, not from our side, not from Mikhail Yakushev's side. It's just the examples of this fake news, typical fake news. So, Mikhail Yakushev, I'm handing over to you the invisible microphone. Please.
Thank you.
And dear audience, once again, please write your questions.
Thank you very much. I'm just launching the screen. Thank you for the opportunity just to tell some important things about the activities of our institute. And thank you, Vladislav, for your kind words. And thanks very much to Andriy and to his very valuable presentation. It describes with a very good quality how and what can be analyzed in terms of Russian disinformation. However, what I will try to tell reflects different part of the story, as Russian propaganda is active not only on the internet, but the way how it delivers their messages to the audience is really disruptive and destructive for the internet. And one of the projects of our institute, which is based in Berlin, is to create a countermeasure, an instrument to prevent such an unfortunate development. So just a few statistics on internet censorship in Russia, which almost never existed before the return of Putin to his formal president's term after Medvedev's term. 15 years in jail, it's the common punishment for so-called discreditation of the Russian armed forces. And you can see also a number of restricted, deleted, blocked, or banned resources that now these numbers are increasing. By January of this year, there were more than 1,300,000 internet resources blocked in Russia for different reasons. And in attempts to block, the very unsuccessful attempts to block Telegram service in Russia 5 years ago, they tried to block up to 25 million IP addresses. So all these attempts were useless, and Telegram still is widely used in Russia. For example, for other platforms like Instagram or Meta, Facebook, the situation was different. There were more than 440 million Instagram users in Russia before it was banned after the invasion against Ukraine last year. And finally, very just big amount of 900 milliard rubles, at almost 1 trillion rubles, it's around 12 milliard euros, is needed to implement the full scale, what they call the sovereign RUNET, or the internet that should be in Russia, in fact, fully isolated from the global internet. So this amount is needed to build an infrastructure that would allow this to happen. So these figures, they are really strange. They're really unfortunate, and they do not, they're not optimistic for us. For example, if the normal answer, or there can be different answers to the simple question why Russia invaded Ukraine, the Russian propaganda gives the alternative version of this question. And instead of why Russia invaded Ukraine, the message of the propaganda is why Russia is forced to defend in Ukraine. And just the cartoon, which is here, is a typical explanation that Ukraine was pushed to invade Russia. Ukraine was pushed by the European American allies with their attempt to enter NATO, and the sleeping Russia had to defend herself and just to start this defense, which of course has nothing to be true, but it's the official position of what Russian propaganda does. And what Russian media can show and can tell you is that in Ukraine, the ethnic Jewish president loves to wear Nazi uniform, that millions of Russian patriots support big meetings with participation of Putin, asking him to liberate Ukraine from the Nazism, that Ukrainian armed forces, they destroy peaceful Russian cities with American missiles. And as for the Russian soldiers in Ukraine, they just only distribute flowers to the population, and of course they do not participate in any battles or just any type of unfortunate activities. And you see, this is the combination of what can be partly true. For example, of course, the photo of Ukrainian President Zelensky is true, but what was photoshopped with the clothes, with the uniform, is fake. Same story is about the photos where the Russian soldiers shown as just giving flowers instead of having a combat. So the methods of the Russian propaganda, they are different, but they could not be successful without doing the following things. They are marked in yellow: creating fake accounts in the social media, trolling, creating false information, false news on the internet, doing a very strict censorship for the Russian internet users, and to avoid any access to the alternative and uncensored information by blocking numerous internet resources, creating such blacklists. Finally, direct banning of foreign internet platforms. And as it was shown in the first slide, Russian operators and Russian providers are subject to severe punishments if they don't do this. And as you can see in this cartoon, yeah, a lot of resources are spent by the Russian government to create this false information, to use the real cyber warfare, cyber weapons, just to not only destroy the infrastructure, the cyber infrastructure of other countries like Ukraine, for example, but also to deliver their messages to the population as a part of psychological information of war. Why this practice is dangerous for everyone? There is a number of negative impacts of such kind of behavior, but what we should understand in terms of development of internet technologies and guaranteeing the stability and resilience of the internet is what is marked here with blue. By the way, to add to the words said by Vladislav, many of participants of the project, which I'm describing right now, they were the founding fathers of the Russian internet. And what is happening with the Russian internet is done by the same people who took decisions of invading Ukraine. So that is why for most of the Russian, most of the Russian internet activists, and for Ukrainians who defend their freedom and struggle for their independence, the enemy is the same. So what they do becomes very expensive for the operators and providers. They may allocate much less money for the cybersecurity and development of their networks, of their infrastructure. The blocking often stops access to other so-called innocent resources. And finally, the trends that we can see now in Russia and countries like Russia will inevitably affect top-level domain zones and very large blocks of IP addresses. So our solution is the so-called VPN generator project. It's a humanitarian project. It's like an experiment which was started to keep the free internet access for people in the countries like Russia, where the governments try to destroy stability and resiliency of the net. And the idea is that it is not just another VPN. It's the technique, the technology that creates just another VPNs for the different groups of the users of this technology, which we call VPN generator, where we took into consideration the fact that the censorship agencies in Russia, as you could see, there are more than 15 of them. They are looking for standard VPN services that serve big numbers of users. And if there such virtual private network exists for 30 or less people, for them it's not interesting, and it's very technologically time and resources consuming. So that's why for big amount of smaller private networks, it would be just a real objective of their censorship interest. So we started this project last summer, and the number of the users of this VPN generator grows significantly every day. And we expect that we can achieve the number of 50 million users by December 2025. And of course, it will not be only used for the Russian users, but we are optimists, and we are sure that by that moment the situation in Russia would change for the better inevitably. But unfortunately, there are also other jurisdictions and other countries where such techniques, such technologies may be really needed. So that's why the goal is will remain the same. We have certain development plans which are also supported by our understanding how much resources are needed. And as for the budget, as you can see, it is free for the users, for the end users, but of course the expenses are very high. But with the increase of the number of users, the average ratio of expenses per user will decrease. And we expect with the achievement of this goal, the price for using this VPN generator will be less than 3 euro cents per person per month. So of course, I will skip this slide. Of course, for us, and in order to fight the billion-dollar industries of censorship and free speech oppressions, this seems to be fair enough. It's not really a big price to pay. There is a number of, of media that support us. They're both from Europe, from United States, from the former Russia that had to move the activities to the European countries. And of course, we need only public support. We need IP addresses, we need cash money, we need certain things that would help us to develop the project and to achieve the goals. These are the contact information with the Telegram channel and the address of the founder of the project, Oleg Basisty. The websites where you can get necessary information, and the address of our colleague who can answer you in German language. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear Mikhail, for such a valuable presentation and for detailed demonstration and practical examples of the capacity of these VPN generators and what you can achieve with their help. And actually, we have yes, I finally see the questions in the chat. So I would like to address you the questions. So the first question is: Would you or some team members travel back to Russia during these days? Or have you traveled during these days to Russia? You're already probably on some certain list, and 3 dots at the end. Yeah.
The team is distributed in different locations, both in European countries and Middle East. So for us, there is no need to travel to Russia by now. And I'm not sure that anyone of us is in any lists, but certain colleagues are criminally or were criminally prosecuted in Russia, unfortunately, yes. So we are not ready to travel to Russia, and by now we don't have real reasons for this.
Yes, I feel you.
Could one argue that you are developing a substitute for Elon Musk Starlink? You see, Elon Musk develops the hardware to provide certain types of communications. So we try to provide software to make these communications really stable and open for all users. We would be happy, yeah, to make a joint project with the companies like Starlink, but maybe it will be in the future. How do you monetize? We had certain plans for monetization of this project, but by now we keep it fully non-commercial, and we have already certain sponsors. Part of the activities is sponsored by the institute itself, and we just expect the assistance of other sponsors. That is why we're telling as much as possible about this activity, this project, and why it is important for everyone, and for Europeans, for European population. How would you gain traction for this application inside of Russia, and what would be the main method of transaction? Would be the users have to pay through cryptocurrencies in order to not to be directly traceable through bank transactions? So in fact, we do not expect any regular payments from the users. So of course, we would accept any kind of donations. They can be done through the bank accounts outside Russia. But for the Russian users or the users in the countries like Russia, it will always be for free. So we have certain, yeah, I think I have answered this. And George Soros and Bill Gates should be sponsoring such an important project. George Soros, maybe yes, we are negotiating certain joint activities. As for Bill Gates, maybe I'm not sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, dear audience, I like your activity. Please keep this activity and keep your questions. Keep writing your questions, because we and me are going to greet now Andriy Nister, who is the co-owner of a wonderful company, Romanian company, which is called Digitalio. And this company is also the member of the biggest, and I heard the oldest, the cluster, Romanian cluster, Kusyy IT cluster. And yes, I'm also delighted to have here a representative from this cluster, Kusyy IT cluster, because they are one of our main partner in Romania and in Eastern Europe. And we visited this wonderful city, second biggest city in Romania, Cluj, and we met there the representatives of this organization, and we also established a trustworthy partnership with them. So this is the good continuation of what we have previously agreed about to effectively work together. So that's all from my side. Dear Andriy Nister, the stage is yours, and the topic, yes, of your presentation will be fighting disinformation using decentralized actors, featuring artificial intelligence and blockchain technologies.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to tell everyone that I'm a journalist. My company, it's editing this journal called Digitalio. We are member of the biggest and oldest cluster, IT cluster in Romania, Cluj IT. And inside of this cluster, we've managed to form a consortium and access a Horizon 2020 financing for our project called Fighting Disinformation Using Decentralized Actors Featuring AI and Blockchain Technology. Our consortium, it's ruled and it's managed with the help of a university in Iași, which is in the eastern part of the country. And with no further explanations, I will go to my presentation. But first of all, I want to ask you one simple question. What is the first word to come into your mind when you hear the expression fake news? So if you are watching this presentation, please take your smartphones and scan the QR code you see on the screen, or if you are accessing this presentation through the smartphone, just go to slido.com and enter that number you can see on the screen, 143-7571, and please answer to my question. And we will see your answers live on the screen. So we've already have one answer: lie. Illegal, Trump, interesting. Donald Trump, this is like just 007. Trump, wow. Russia, We have already 6 participants, 7 who answered to my question. Russia Today, what is truth? Yeah. Well, 10 people already asked the question, and we can see a big word in the center of the screen, Russia. But also we have manipulation, China, media, Lavrov, okay. Please answer to the question. 9 people are already answered, but we are more than 20 online. Critical thinking is someone answering. Propaganda, well, yes. Violence, okay. Who is judging it? Okay, yes. 10 people already answered to my question.
Maybe, dear Andriy, maybe we are not gonna wait for everyone until everyone will answer.
Okay,
What?
We will stop here because the time is very limited. So when I ask this question, the big word that comes, it's Russia, which is not a surprise. And it was a result that I must tell you, I was expected, because a big part of what is today this fake news problem, it comes because of Russia and because of what Russia did invading Ukraine. So we stop this and go back to my presentation, and we can go further. So what is the context? Well, you know that trust in media, it's lower than ever. It's a fact. At present, trust in media, in mainstream media, is lower than ever, not just here in Romania, I think all over the world. In the current media landscape, publications are driven by click-based ad revenue. And in order to increase the number of views, you know, publications tend to take journalistic shortcuts. Well, in this landscape, even reputable publications tend to favor engagement over clarity. This, in turn, impacts the reader's ability to distinguish the truth from disinformation and fake news. A survey regarding trust in media, all media, was conducted in 2019 in all 28 EU countries. It was found that 41% of Europeans have medium trust in the media. 40% of the EU citizens had lower or no trust at all in the media. And only 90% of adults had high trust in the news media. So I think we have a big problem. The population in general is aware about the media quality and the spread of disinformation and fake news. Well, this data comes from 2019, but now we are in 2023. So I think the problem is worse. What we've did, maybe you know, there are a couple of approaches to fighting disinformation. Professional fact checkers, crowdsourced fact checking, and non-assisted automated verification. The first approach is verification performed by professional fact checkers, humans. It has accurate results and follows a standardized methodology for fact checking. However, this approach is time consuming and has little impact since it takes a while to assess the information and is very difficult to scale. The second approach is verification performed by non-professional communities, crowdsourced fact checking. This leverage crowd wisdom, but it comes with no supporting tools. As opposed to the first one, it has a good potential to scale. The third approach is verification done by software tools, AI and/or a series of analysis algorithms, non-assisted automated verification. It has a huge scaling potential, but it does not usually achieve the same level of accuracy as the first two approaches. Well, what we proposed on our project, which I remember you, it's a EU-funded project aiming to make a tool to fight disinformation and misinformation and fake news. The solution we are proposing in the frame of this project consists of building a decentralized anti-disinformation platform for fact-checking and trust assessment. As for technology, this platform will make use of blockchain. We create our own blockchain and also artificial intelligence technologies. As for verification and analysis of information, this will be performed by a human actor, that is crowd wisdom, with the support from non-assisted automated verification through featured artificial intelligence modules. The federated AI component is composed of a series of AI modules that each separately analyze the same information, like a news article, and provide a trust score for it. Our platform will support a plugin-like architecture where compliant AI modules can become part of this federated AI component. It is also possible for such an AI module to provide a user interface that can be used to inspect why a particular trust score was given. This kind of tools can also provide support for human actors that are also analyzing that information. Towards the end of this presentation, we will see some example of such a user interface depicting the traceability graph of a news article. I promise you it will be very interesting. Okay, current landscape versus our proposal. Well, in this section, I'll talk about what sets out our proposal apart from other projects, because you may know there are some projects like us. Well, most solutions based on blockchain try to establish a news platform where publishers publish their news article. However, this approach has a big, I may say, a huge problem, being extremely hard, if not impossible, to get all news agencies and publishers to use that particular platform. It is like Google would have tried to convince all website owners to move their content on Google platform. Of course, this didn't happen. Instead, Google let the sites retain their own identity and web domains and fetch their content using web crawlers in order to analyze and index it. Well, our proposal follows a similar approach to Google and does not require news agencies and publishers to publish their news or their content on our platform. Instead, a series of specialized web crawlers will be developed to crawl their site and index their content on our blockchain. Only after the content is stored on blockchain, it will be further verified for authenticity and trust using AI-based algorithms and human crowd wisdom. This step of analyzing the content after it was stored on blockchain is absolutely necessary because it guarantees that the information analyzed is the same for all validators, humans, actors, and AI modules. Once the information is placed on blockchain, it cannot change. This is a guarantee. And it provides a snapshot of that information as it was a particular point in time on a particular publisher site. Moreover, this protects against rogue publisher that might alter the information or even serve different content for the same URL to different users. I will tell you about a trust score. We have two main components that assess the information and provide a trust score: federated AI and crowd wisdom. At this moment, we still have to decide, we didn't decide it yet, to convey this trust score to the general public, either as two different scores provided by AI and crowd wisdom, or as a single trust score computed with a weighted formula. Our blockchain-based system verifies the identity of content creators and track their reputation over time, essentially eliminating the need for a trusted, centralized institution. It also be possible to inspect the reputation history of a particular publisher or news agency to see if particular events like a change in stockholders, administration board, or internal policy had a positive or negative impact over it. Here we have a list of some of our ideas we need to explore as part of this project. First of all, it's important to mention that validators themselves, this is human actors or AI modules, also have reputation, not only publisher or news agency. Example of such modules, actual and to be vested validator reputation models, where to be vested is the amount of reputation to be gained or lost by a validator after assessing a particular information. It can vest, for example, after a certain number of validator also verify the same information or after a period of time. We also, on our project, need to think how to define the schemes for validator reputation and incentivization so that we have a well-balanced reputation system. We've already made some step on this direction. Also, we think to increase the voting weights on the trust score for the human validator based on their location. Well, for instance, if, I don't know, we take a news article describing an event that took place in Paris, human validator located in Paris should have, of course, a bigger say on the overall trust score because they are there. Also, in order to react as soon as possible to developing stories and viral news, there is also the option to implement priorities and to fetch and analyze news articles based on their spread on social media. This, however, implies writing another set of specialized crawlers for social media as well. And this most likely will be implemented in version 2 of our platform. And now on this side, we can look at an example of how a software tool can assist humans to inspect and decide upon a news article. Here we have a traceability graph that tracks a news article back to its roots, patient, also called patient 0. This article can also suffer modification, sometimes substantial modifications, as it passes from one publisher to another. This kind of analysis may be performed by AI modules and can also be exposed to human actors if needed. In this particular example, an article on the publisher site A, the green one, was tracked back to the origin article, patient 0, on publisher site M, the red one. On its path, the article suffered some changes in both title and content to fit the narrative. This is a propaganda use case using change it to fit the narrative technique. The graph shows the path from P0 node M to current article A, the bolded path. Following that path, you can see how the title changes to fit the narrative. P0 node M, with the approaching of the Battle of Deir az-Zor, the coalition evacuates 2 of their spies. This, I quote, is by EN derizur24.net. The second one, P0 plus 1, node F, it looks like this, and I quote, US aircraft evacuates over 20 Daesh commanders from Deir ez-Zor, and the source is Sputnik, the same news. The third one, it's P0 plus 2, node B, and I quote, source, as Syrian army defeats ISIS, US aircraft rescue remaining ISIS commander. And I close the quote, and this is by the free2toughproject.com. There are 3 types of connections between articles. Explicit, like blue lines in the graph, with links. Explicit, it's by links. Implicit, when an article does not refer to a specific article, but refers to the publisher only, for example, according to AFP, green dotted lines in our example. And semantic, when 2 articles are linked, even if there is no explicit or implicit reference between them, yellow dotted lines. Percentage on the connection lines represent the semantic distance between the connected articles, how semantically close are the 2 articles. This is obtained using a semantic similarity deep learning model, NG. P0 node will always be marked with red color. Current article node is marked with green. The other nodes' color do not matter. So this is what we try to do on our project. On this slide, we have the overall system architecture. In the middle, you can see the blockchain network surrounded by a series of smart contracts. The news article from publisher and news agencies are fetched and stored in the system using specially written web crawlers. The data is stored off-chain, and the proof of data authenticity is stored on-chain. At the bottom, we have the federated AI and crowd wisdom validator that assess the information. From the end user perspective, we have a client API that can be used to create a series of client applications that interact with our system. The end user can also interact with the system using the platform portal, where they can search and check the reputation of publisher and the trust score of news article. As for the business model, we intend to employ business to business and business to consumer model that give access based on subscriptions to preliminary trust score. Trust scores are generally available only after a certain number of votes accumulate or after a period of time passes. These models will generate commercial value for the organization and the recurring revenue that will also the project to scale up further. The cryptocurrency generated in the blockchain will generate financial value for the project itself, the miner, human actors, and AI providers. We also intend to promote the platform as one of the pillars of trust and reputation on the internet. The project team, you can see on the screen. We are these entities. First of all, the University of Iași, one of the oldest and best known higher education institution in Romania. We also have CyberDation, which is a cybersecurity company whose founder also have experience running anti-disinformation think tank for more than 6 years. Zeta Cloud is an AI company that provides software solution for deep understanding of online content. It pioneers fake news detection algorithms and AI NLP solutions. Digitalio, which is represented by me here, is a news and debate platform dedicated to digitalization, new technology, crypto space, and cyber security. And of course, all this project was possible because of Cluj IT, an innovation-based value chain network of Romanian IT company. As I told you, the biggest and the oldest cluster, IT cluster in Romania, with almost 100 members, 12 university and 2 research institutes from Romanian academy. In conclusion, I want to tell you that we intend to build a decentralized anti-disinformation platform for fact-checking and trust assessment based on blockchain, crowd wisdom, and AI technology. This platform will give the end consumer a simple and objective way to see which media institutions are the most reliable and to check trust on news article. The model proposed by us is scalable and can be easily adapted for other EU countries with huge impact on fighting fake news and disinformation all over Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mulțumesc, dear Andrei. Thank you, dear audience. Thank you, dear speakers, for your time dedicated to us. And now I want to invite you all to breakout session rooms where you can talk to each other and get to know each other. Please stay here.